Hi, welcome back to the Cuzzy Sound channel and part 30 in the series all about my Project 12 DIY modular analog synth. Over the past couple of years or so, I've gradually built up a collection of small speakers. People just keep giving me these things. Oh, I've got this, I don't know where it's come out of. Can you do something with it? Do you want it? So I've got lots of things like this. Not particularly big speakers, but yeah, all sorts of different kind of ranges and things. And I've just been collecting them, they've just been building up. And I thought, I've got to try and do something with all these little bits of speaker that I've been collecting. There's got to be some way of doing something with them with the modular synth. And I thought, well, start simple. So what I did was speaker here, and I just simply wired the jack socket, just a mono jack socket, to the speaker, which then allows me to plug various modules into this with patch cables. Now, yeah, the thing about this particular DIY synth, and probably some of the more commercial ones, I don't know, I've never been able to afford a commercial module, but the output levels from the different modules vary quite considerably. So I'm going to get all sorts of different responses plugging this in, and there's 40 odd modules in Project 12 now, so I had to kind of slim it down somewhat to do some sensible testing. So I thought I'd stick to the output from the mixers. Now there's two types of mixer in Project 12. I'm going to put the speaker down without dropping everything. The 4x2 mixer, which is this one here, that's a very simple mixer. There's no buffered inputs on that. It's just kind of potentiometers, and then there's a kind of a bit of a buffer on the output and a gain. So that's one version, and then the other mixer, which is down on the bottom here, that one is a buffered mixer. So each of the inputs is buffered and the output is buffered, and there's kind of a bit of a gain control on that. So I thought, right, I'll stick to just plugging the speaker into the outputs of those two and see what we get. So here's a quick demo of what the results were. The patch I'm using for the demo is fairly simple. It's just a square wave with an envelope and a filter to basically make it sound like a bell. We can have a listen. I'll put it through the mixer to start with so you can hear what things should sound like. So that's the bell sound going through the mixer and coming out through the digital interface. So there's no speakers involved in that. Right, I'm going to take it out. That's coming from the buffered mixer as well. So I'll take it out of that and then put it into the 4x2 mixer, which is the non-buffered mixer. And what I have now is this speaker. So I put the speaker near the microphone. There's nothing coming out at the moment. So if I start to turn up the input levels, still not getting anything out of this. It's distorting now, but that's because I've actually, well, I was overdriving the gain on the non-buffered mixer, but that's everything turned up full blast. So it's not really enough to drive the speaker. I'll put it out the other microphone. There's nothing, it's hardly anything there at all. Right, so let's turn that lot right down again, otherwise I'm going to blow things out. So we'll take that out of there, and we'll put it back into the buffered mixer. And so now I'm plugging the speaker into the output on the buffered mixer, and if I start to turn the volume up, so hardly any volume on this at all. I mean, that's nothing. That's it coming straight in. And with hardly anything on the master volume. So that's kind of like the volume level, which is kind of a potential divider. And that's the gain on the output side of the mixer. So you've basically got volume, really distorting this speaker, and then gain. So with the design that I've got on, you can hear it there. With the design that I've got on the buffer mixer, it's very easy to actually overdrive the speaker. But what it does show is that compared to the non-buffer mixer, I had everything flat out before you'd got a little whisper out of the speaker. Whereas on the buffered mixer, because there's buffered inputs and then the gain on the output, it's driving the speaker quite nicely. There's probably a whole load of electronic theory behind what I'm doing here, but I don't know what it is. But it works. Right. So, how can we use that idea in a module? Okay, so yeah, out of 4x2, not a lot. Out of the buffer mixer, there seems to be enough to actually drive the speaker. So, it's got me thinking, can I actually power the speaker with the same kind of circuit that is used in the buffered mixer? So essentially, what I've built is a single channel buffered mixer. Now, single channel mixer is a bit of an oxymoron, really, because you're not actually mixing anything together. But it appears to work. So I drew up the circuit, and the circuit diagram looks like this. So I've got a volume control on the input, which is just a potential divider, and then also on the input I've got a switch which allows me to either go through the boost circuit or go directly to the speaker. And then the boost circuit is, you can see the buffer input there, and then the gain amp on the end. And that's it really, and it then just goes out to the speaker. So a strip board layout to build that looks like this. Just using a single op amp, and it's a dual power supply, so plus and minus 12 volt. Very small circuit board. And then on the, well, the one thing to note there actually is that the actual gain potentiometer, the 50k, is a log pot. It's not linear. It's so A50 if you're looking at the rating on the pot itself. Right. When I put it all together, I decided to build it onto a wooden panel, and so the back of the wooden panel looks like this. You can see there's kind of a large penny washer that the jack socket's screwed onto. That's because it's 6mm ply that I've used. It's just what I had hanging around from one of the old boxes, and the threads aren't long enough to poke through the hole of the ply. And if we look at the front, you can see I've also having not just countersunk the jack socket onto the washer, also the hole is wide enough to accommodate the plug body, not just the shaft, otherwise you'd not get to plug in far enough. But also the thread on the pots wasn't quite long enough, so the pot nuts are also countersunk into the front panel. And then I hand cut the circle with a fret saw, which is why it's not really a very good circle, because I'm not very good at woodworking either. So, but there you go. That's kind of what it looks like. So we'll plug it into the synth and we'll go and have a listen to what the results are. Again, I'm just going to use the output from the mixers just to kind of compare with what we were doing before. This is the module in its home in Project 12. So we've got the volume control, the gain control, input, and the boost switch. At the moment it's switched off, so we've not got the actual boost circuit, the single channel mixer circuit turned on. So the input is going via the volume pot straight to the speaker. I'm using the output from the 2x4 non-buffered mixer, this one. So as it stands, we're not hearing anything. If I turn the volume control, that's it. The volume control's flat out. Don't actually have markers on these, but I just thought these brass guitar knobs, again, something I had kicking around for ages and not really found a use for them, but I thought they looked really nice against the wood. So there's nothing appears to be happening. If I turn the level right up, again, can't hear anything yet. But if I start to turn up the master volume, just getting a little bit of distortion at the top end, but you hardly hear anything at all. Right, let's back things right off. And the gain's turned right down, but we'll switch in. So these are now set around about halfway, and we'll switch the boost circuitry on. And straight away, you go from hearing virtually nothing to a decent level of output. Turn the gain up. Very easily starts to distort. It up for a nice distorted output sound, if that's what you're looking for. Looking for something a bit nicer. Let's turn that. So we've got the input level set around about halfway, and the master volume set around about a third. Gain is gain's probably around about just under halfway. The volume's about just under halfway. But I can tune it to. Oh, there's a nice clean sound. So, yeah, the boost circuitry works quite nice there. Turn the boost circuitry out. There's nothing. I'll turn the volume right up. It's starting to get something. Obviously, because I turned the boost circuitry off, the gain knob has absolutely no effect whatsoever, because that circuitry is not involved. Actually, when I go right down the bottom, because I'm essentially doing a bit of a short on the circuit, because I'm turning the pot right down to its extreme level, it does actually cut out, but that's just a glitch in the very basic circuit design. If you wanted to be more professional about this, you'd put some kind of resistance in there to stop that doing that. Yeah, I'm not bothered about that. This is simple, quick, easy, using what I've got lying around, so cheap as well. So yeah, so the gain is not really doing anything apart from a weird glitch. But if I take the signal now and put it into the buffered mixer, turn all the things down on that, and take the output, from there, go. So it's just a case of balancing the volume with this, balancing the volume controls between the mixer and the speaker. Now back everything right off and switch the boost in. We've still get it to work, but we've now got master volume on probably quarter, the actual input mixer there on about a third, the gain's probably on about a quarter, the volume's on about a third there, probably about half there. So again, it's balancing the levels between what is essentially a mixer line here and the mixer lines on here, which is kind of doubling up the circuit that's in there. It's a bit crude, and depending on kind of what you want, it's definitely not hi-fi. But if you want to hear what's possibly coming out of your synth, then I've got an onboard speaker. Well, there you go. If you've got some spare speakers, you don't know what to do with them, and you want to have a quick and dirty way of listening to what the output on your synth might sound like, then go on, have a go. Build your own powered speaker module.